During this bear market, any crypto investors are naturally most concerned about their own investments. But the news tends to focus on those most famous, largest investors in the crypto market. Since news makes its money on reads, then they need some juicy headlines. And when the market's down, what's juicier than saying how much money these large investors have lost so far? But while the mathematical data might be accurate on how much they're down in their investment, it's important to remember that for most of these companies or individuals, these are unrealized losses, as they haven't yet sold. But just knowing the numbers about how much they're down isn't really that helpful. What can be more helpful is seeing their perspective, as they're some of the largest and most influential investors in the market. So let's look past the headlines and see what these major investors themselves have to say about their Bitcoin investments. We'll start with the most well-known figure, Elon Musk and his company Tesla. Tesla has acquired 43,200 Bitcoins and spent approximately $1.5 billion on them. But this Bitcoin stash is now valued at around $840 million, which represents quite a significant, probably unrealized loss. Tesla's Q2 earnings report is coming up, and it is possible they've sold some Bitcoin, but according to previous quotes by Musk, it seems unlikely that they would have sold. While Musk hasn't said much about Bitcoin recently, in the past he's come out as a relatively strong supporter of Bitcoin who seems to believe in the long-term future, with some criticisms toward the environmental impact of Bitcoin mining. Somewhat unusual for somebody in his position, Musk is not actually a Bitcoin maximalist and has talked about other cryptocurrencies as well, most notably Dogecoin, which he has recently spoken about and further supported, saying that he personally is continuing to buy it. Another thing to note about Musk and Tesla's Bitcoin purchase, considering how big Tesla is overall, they aren't exactly overinvested in Bitcoin. And when we take into account many of the other obstacles Musk and Tesla are facing this quarter, Bitcoin's price drop is just one, and probably not the largest of a myriad of problems that they're going to have to overcome. So it's not too surprising that we haven't seen too many words from Musk about Bitcoin during this bear market. Michael Saylor is one of the most well-known, current, and largest investors in Bitcoin through his company Microstrategy. During this recent dip, there's been a lot of news speculating about a margin call Microstrategy was facing on a Bitcoin loan. But Michael Saylor came out and explained that there's no real worry here. If we take his word for it, Microstrategy has plenty of collateral and isn't very close to being concerned about any margin calls. And further cementing his response, Microstrategy recently bought another 480 Bitcoins at this cheaper price, between 20 and 21,000 per Bitcoin. Unlike Elon Musk, Michael Saylor is a Bitcoin maximalist, which means that he really strongly believes in Bitcoin and thinks very little of any altcoins, basically any cryptos other than Bitcoin. So as for Michael Saylor, his general take is to focus on Bitcoin and focus on the long-term, not worrying about short-term price movements. Another major figure in the tech space and Bitcoin maximalist is Jack Dorsey, who is the co-founder of Block, formerly known as Square. Jack Dorsey got into Bitcoin some time ago, and since then has been very focused on it, not only personally, but also professionally. Not only offering Bitcoin trading through their product Cash App, but also holding Bitcoin on their balance sheet. During this bear market, Block's overall Bitcoin investment is also down. But Jack Dorsey is no less of a Bitcoin supporter or Bitcoin maximalist. And we can see this most strongly in his recent development of Web5 and TBD, a project with which he is hoping to expand the idea of Web3 and create an internet somewhat backed and run by Bitcoin, with a major focus on people being in control of their own identity online. So in Dorsey's case, not only does he not seem to be worried about his current unrealized losses of Bitcoin, but he is focusing on Bitcoin now more than ever in his professional efforts with the new branch of his company. And finally, there's Nayib Bukele, the president of El Salvador, which became famous for being the first country to make Bitcoin into legal tender. This is a bit more controversial than the first three we've talked about, as Musk and Saylor and Dorsey are all people in the tech space running companies and buying some Bitcoin through their companies. Whereas Bukele is running a country that's facing a bit of economic hardship, and his decision about Bitcoin is faced with a lot of opposition from El Salvadorian citizens. However, if we look at Bukele's viewpoint, we can see that he also still very much believes in the long-term future of Bitcoin. Much like Saylor, Bukele decided to use this dip to add to El Salvador's Bitcoin holdings, buying an additional 80 Bitcoin at around $19,000 per Bitcoin. And he addressed the worries about the current bear market through a tweet, telling people that as long as they are patient and wait for the future, Bitcoin will always go back up. While these antics might be met with skepticism from citizens who are facing rough economic times, it does show his own personal conviction of the future of Bitcoin. So that concludes a quick little update from some of the biggest and most well-known Bitcoin investors during this bear market. Overall, these people who are strong supporters of Bitcoin see this bear market as a normal part of the cycle and still believe in the long-term future. As for the rest of cryptocurrency, views change person to person. Anyway, to conclude, just because some famous rich people say something doesn't mean it's right. So, as always, make sure that you don't take this as investment advice. It's simply a look into the recent thoughts of some influential people in the crypto space. Please remember that if you are investing, to do your own research and make your own decisions at what you think is responsible and safe for you to do on your own. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, please do the old like, subscribe, comment, and share. It'll help out a lot, and I'll see you guys next time.